Yes, let's start about this investigation. What is it about? It is about investigations. You can see my notes. Not anymore, I believe. So, who am I to talk about investigations with you? Let's put me. Hello, this is Matteo. I am a level 3 judge. I have been judging for a very long time, and I have been investigating a lot at GPs since 2015. That's almost 5 years worth of investigation. And also, I have been on the player investigation committee since 2016 until the committee was closed down. And I've actually read and discussed about lots and lots of reports about investigations. So I hope this can make me qualified enough for you to talk about investigations. But there is still one more question that you may be asking me. So why do we need another seminar about investigations? Correct. We had some very nice workshop earlier today as well. But right now, what I want to do is to share some stories. You can see on the slides, I call them bonfire stories, because I want to share and to pass some knowledge about a real case situation that I had to face during my judge time. And I decided actually to run this seminar because when I am on the floor, I discuss with judges. There is always some confusion about what is judging. So if we had to ask Sherlock Holmes about like his most famous quote, that is something that he always says, he would answer us in a specific way, elementary, my dear Watson, or maybe not, because this is actually incorrect. As you may know, Conan Doyle never wrote something like that, because the real thing that Sherlock Holmes would say about investigation is, I asked 2 questions, yeah, the right ones. And believe me or not, this is like the most common answer I ever received at GPs or even at level 3 panels, for example, about what is the secret of a good investigation. It's like asking the right questions. But when you check with the judge, what are these questions? Well, that's going to be tricky. And that's what we are going to try to assess today. So what are the right questions that we need to ask for an investigation? But even before talking about investigations, we need to do something else before. We need to define what is an investigation. And since I was telling you about stories, sharing stories, and working from the examples, I'm copy and pasting now in the chat 4 situations that we may or may not discuss tonight. And I would like you to do something for me. That is react to these scenarios with a thumb up on the chat on Discord if this is a situation you would investigate, or with a thumb down if this is a situation that you would not investigate. So I'm going to pass now the situations, 1 line per situation. And I believe that these are situations that you faced before during your judge life, because they are very common situations. Okay, so the first one that I'm entering into the chat is, Judge, where is the toilet? So you have a player that comes to you and asks you this simple question. I see a lot of people voting, so keep voting, and I'm passing you also the second one, so you can vote for the first and the second one. The second one is another player who is coming to you and asking you, Judge, can I give you the result of my match? Another very, very simple situation that I believe you may have seen a lot of times. I see some thumbs up, a few more thumbs down. The first situation is thumbs down rolling and people also being happy about the question, I believe. And then there is the third question about, so a third situation that I would like to check with you if it's investigation worthy or not. And the situation is a player calling you at the table this time and saying, "Judge, we have additional time." So this is more a request rather than a question. But still, I hope this situation happened to you as well and not just to me. So if we start recapping for the for the first question, we have several people not investigating. For the second question, a little bit more than the previous one. Would like to investigate, but most of you would like not to investigate. And the third one, we have, well, a lot of questions to be asked, maybe. So let's go to the fourth and last situation that I want to share with you. And this one also happened to me several times. And it's a player calling you at the table and telling you, "Judge, I can't find a card." Okay. So this is situation number 4. You can find it now in the chat. And I will give you a few seconds to vote. While I do all my magic and technical magic. So I'm putting Matteo back. So I'm waiting for you to enter all your votes. And then we can move. Okay, I don't see counters moving anymore. So let's do the final recap. So first situation, player coming to you, "Judge, where is the toilet?" We have 6 people saying that they would investigate and 28 people, they are not going to investigate. Second situation, a player coming to you and asking you, "Judge, can I give you the result?" We have 27 do not investigate and 11 yes, investigate. Third situation, a player calling you at the table and telling you, "Judge, we have additional time." And we have 2 people who would not investigate and 35 yes. And the fourth one is, well, votes are similar to the number 3. We have 1 people who would not investigate and 39 people, yes, I would investigate. So let's close Matteo. Hi, see you later. And go back to the slides. Okay. I promised you that we would say what is an investigation, but first, let's start with the first example, something that most of you said, this is not an investigation. And as I promised you, these are real stories. So yes, this question happened like 1,000 times per year in my entire judge career, multiple times at any event. But I want to tell you a story about, well, GP Lyon 2020. I don't know if you if you're aware of how special was GP Lyon 2020, but I was there. I was not head judging that time. I was team leading and I was like judging a lot of events. And I remember it very clearly because it was actually the last GP that I I happened to judge, and probably I believe it's also the last GPs we had this year before the pandemic changed our judge life. And it happened to me on Friday several times. Players coming to me, I was at side events. I was head judging an amazing poker event. And so I was walking through the tables and helping other events close by. And well, when a player asks you something like that, usually there is something very clear, and the player needs to go to the toilet. So they need the information as fast as possible, as quick as possible. But there is something that we can also do to help them, or if not directly them, other people as well. Because I mean, we are at a magic event, so we expect people to actually play magic. So if a player comes to you with this question, I would quickly check with them, like, are you playing an event? And if yes, does your judge know that you just left the table? Can I also go there? Can you point me to the direction of your table? Why that? Because, well, if someone disappears out of the blue from playing a tournament, well, probably the judge needs to know that the player left for that reason. And probably also the opponent needs to know that that player won't be at the at their table in time. So you can provide an extra service not only to the first player, but also to the opponent and the judge. But also, maybe the player was playing a limited event, for example, and maybe this was their construction time. And we usually don't want people to disappear in the middle of their construction for a lot of reasons, like leaving things unattended or possibly going to look for advice on how to build a deck. So there are events that we allow players to lead the table under certain conditions. So asking a few questions can be helpful, also because it's not only one player, but it's the entire event that we are serving. So if I have to put a few things into perspective, going back to Lyon, as I told you, Lyon was the first event in the pandemics and the last GPs to be run. And we gave a lot of instructions to players in order how to play safe. They including, for example, we stressed out how important is the hands hygiene. So we placed hand sanitizers in several places around the venue. And most of the questions I had that Friday that were about, okay, where is the toilet, were not really about, I need to go to the toilet because I have something to do there, but was more like, I want to clean my hands. I want my hygiene to be good with my hands because maybe I touched my opponent's deck, maybe I don't feel comfortable without cleaning my hands for a while. So in that situation, the good answer was not maybe pointing a very far location for the toilet, but pointing a very close location for hand sanitizer. So what do we learn from this? So first thing, the context we need to understand. So what is the player actually doing? So what is the player actually wanting to do? In our situation, for example, is the player playing a tournament? What time is in the round? Of course, we need to know the toilet location. Is it far away? Is it close by? But we also need to know the causes that bring the player to our attention. For example, in this situation, does the player really need the toilet or does the player just need some hand sanitizer? And third one is the effects. Every decision that we make has a consequence in the event, either for that single player or for multiple players. And we talked about, for example, deck building time or additional time if the player is playing and leaving the table. So yes, even a simple question like where is the toilet can hide multiple questions from our side. And that can be a definition of investigation. But you're telling me, come on, Matteo, and let's see you, and you say, come on, Matteo, like in the Italian way with a good use of the hand. This is a very simple question. You cannot waste so much time for such a simple question. And that is indeed one of the critical part of any investigation is time, because magic events are run on time, and we need to use the time we have in the best possible way. And asking like 50 questions to a player who simply asks you where is the toilet is probably not the most efficient way to use that time. But at the same time, pardon the pun, there is a second thing that we need to be aware, and that is bias. Now, what do you mean, Matteo, about bias? Every time that you think that something is too simple or something is obvious or like you already know all the answers, you are probably using part of your knowledge or part of your previous experience in order to like shortcut your decision process. And you get a little bit of inputs, you process them very efficiently, and you generate an output based not only on the specific situation that you are living at that moment, but using everything that you gain in your life. And this is also a very dangerous thing about investigations, because believe me, situations are never the same, especially at magic events. And everything that seems to you like super simple, super clear, you have done this like 500 times before. Maybe there will be that change in the context, or that change in the causes, or that change in the effects that would tell you it's better to stop for a little bit, think about it, and find a way to solve it in the best way. So yes, it is particular because you need to be vigilant, but above all, you need to be curious, because you need to challenge yourself constantly into finding the best answer, okay? And in order to find the best answer to the request that you are receiving by players, you probably need to ask questions. Okay, so yes, I would say that I would investigate also this situation. But you can tell me, let's put Matteo back for a sec. You can tell me with the Italian hand again. But Matteo, you are cheating. And I would say, oh, yes, this is investigation seminar. So I may be cheating during the seminar. But no, Matteo, what I'm meaning that it's impossible to tell you that this situation needs to be investigating just but what you told us, like a player coming to you and saying, Judge, where is the toilet? Well, I agree. I didn't give you any context. I added the context when we were talking about the story of GP Lyon 2020. But this is not a bug. I mean, this is the feature, because players will never give you the entire context. Probably they will only give you the piece of information that they think is relevant or they want to share with you. So it's going to be on you to decide whether the context is clear enough, the causes are simple enough, and the effects are easy enough to grasp in order not to ask further questions. Okay, but you talked a lot. You discussed about very simple situation, but then let's go back. So what is an investigation for you, Matteo? I mean, I know that if I ask you what is an investigation, I will likely get like 10, 20, 50 different answers. So I'm gonna share what I think is an investigation at a magic event. It's composed of 3 parts. Part number 1, it's a mental effort, because you need to understand what is really happened, or what the player really wants. Every simple question may hide like difficult situations or important situation for the player who is talking to you. So first of all, it's you that you need to be willing to put some effort mentally to understand. And second part is customer service, because every investigation is geared on providing the best service possible to our players. So we really want them to enjoy their event. We really want to give them the best answer. We really want to give them the best service. In order to do that, we want to provide the best customer care. So asking that extra question may be good customer care to them. And the third part is, I mean, please remember, we are not investigating because we are police enforcers. We investigate because we want to find the truth. Most of the times, the object of our investigation will not be cheaters. We are not going to catch the people that break the rules. Most of the times, we will be investigation are related to the previous 2 parts. So we want to understand and we want to provide the best customer service. And that's why we are going to ask the questions. And so if this definition can ring something inside you, well, let's go and see how that applies to the second situations that we shared before. Second situation is a player coming to you asking you if they can give you the results of a match. And as you know, at large events, we use a little piece of paper usually that provides the players the opportunity with entering the results of a match. So what we need to find out are the 3 parts that we previously discussed. So the first one is the context. So this time I'm not cheating, I'm providing you the context immediately. This is coming from another GP Lyon that was 2015, and I remember that GP Lyon. I'm putting my face back because it's personal, because it was my first GP where I was a head judge. So I was like kind of shaky, and I was very emotional, but also very focused. So I was like, okay, this needs to be the best GP ever for me. So I need to do a good performance. And there was this player coming to me at the end of round 1. So that was clearly the beginning of the day. And it was almost close to end of round procedure. So it was about 40 minutes left on the clock. And I had this simple question to me. So can I give you the result? And I was a little bit curious about this question because, I mean, we already distributed all the entry slips for players. So why is this player coming to me without one and wanting to give me the result by voice? So what is the context? 40 minutes on the clock, round 1, the player is away from the table, the player does not have an entry slip, and the player is telling me, oh, I want 2-0. So this is the context. And by context, I also call it sometimes as the present, because this the context is the most important thing that you need to understand when you are evaluating a situation, because the present, you have all the means to get all the information possible in order that the present is as clear as possible to you. And if you can't understand the present, that is the context, you can't provide a good service, because probably you are misunderstanding or misinterpreting something from the player. So as a judge, if you want to get one thing about this investigation, just one thing, the most important one is I hold you responsible to get the full context of the player request, because you have all the means to get it, okay? Causes and effects may be more difficult because information may be lost while you get there, but the context is right there in front of your eyes. Okay, so let's say this is the full context of the situation. As we said, round 1, end of round, so 40 minutes on the clock, player away from the table, they did not have the entry slip, and they are claiming they're winning. So at this point, context, as I said, is clear. Let's move to the second part of our questioning. So we have already another information available, that is the causes. So what do we want to ask? Okay, I mean, the critical part to me is this entry slip, for example. So why does the player not have it? And when we ask the player why they don't have an entry slip, and they say, oh, there was no judge that gave us one before, but I can confirm you that I won 2-0. Okay, so we have a first answer about why we don't have this slip. So we are starting to getting questions about the causes of the situation. And another thing that we can ask about the causes, okay, you say you won 2-0. How was the match? The player explains you that he won game 2 by he was playing controller. It was a very long game, and he finally won, like being on low life. So he's telling us something about life totals. So do you have like the life pad? We're still investigating the causes. No, I throw it away, so I don't have the piece of paper with me. And okay, let's see if we can get some other information about the causes. Oh, by the way, judges, if you want to share any questions at any time, that in order to go through the investigation, you can enter them on the Discord text chat. I will read them, and I will include if relevant to the investigation. And okay, so no life pad, no proof, physical proof of what the player is saying. What can we do now to investigate more the cause? As we know, I mean, exactly. Good job, Stephen. I was right going there. A match of Magic is played by not by a single player, but by 2 players. So we can verify both information that our player told us by going to the opponent, because they can tell us if the slip arrived to the table, what the result was, and we can double check. But also, there are more things we can ask this player, like, okay, you said a judge never arrived to your table. Did any judge arrive at your table during the match? Maybe you didn't notice. And the player says, oh, yeah, a player was involved because my opponent committed a mistake and he received a warning. So that's even more interesting because it expands the range of people we can talk to, because we have the opponent, but we also have the judge who get the warning. And we may also have the scorekeeper, because the scorekeeper can provide us information like the name of the opponent or the table that this player was playing. And we can like complete our story. Okay, so we did investigate all these causes. And let's see very quickly what are the effects of our decision. So the third point that we need to consider in our investigation. Well, there is a player with no proof of the match result that is claiming to have won a match. So the result of our decision will be this player actually getting the points out of his win, or finding a way, or maybe inviting this player to play a different event. So there are two possible, I see, effects of this decision. So short story, let's make the story short. Yes, we did find the name of the opponent. We did find the table number. I went to the scorekeeper and asked this information, and the scorekeeper told me very simply, oh, but I already entered the result. And the result entered by the scorekeeper was 2-0 for the opponent instead of 2-0 for this player. Whoa, that's interesting. So the scorekeeper actually had an entry slip, and the entry slip said correct. Said 2-0 for the opponent. There was a warning recorded for the opponent. And if you know how the entry slips work, we ask judges to write on the back of a slip some information about the penalty they assess. And so we recorded the name of the judge giving the penalty. And in any investigation where you are unable to see the past clearly because there is no camera, or you are not actually seeing the things that happened, having a possible witness like a judge is very useful, because judges, good question, Antonio. Judges can be impartial in the match, so they can be like independent witnesses. So we did find a judge. The judge said, yeah, I remember that match. And they called me because of this error at the table. I gave a warning. And then I asked the judge, okay, did you happen to stay close by while writing the penalty on the slip? Or, yeah, I stayed there because I saw that match was almost over, and I wanted to see how the match ended. And how did it end? Oh, yeah, the player who received the warning won that game and won 2-0. So even without actually talking to the player or calling the player on the mic, we were able to find let's say an independent witness with a valid information for us. And when we finally reached the opponent, he confirmed what the judge said. So we had the opponent winning the match 2-0, and the player coming to me in round one of my first GP as a head judge, going to play side events. Yes, that's cool. Sometimes even a simple situation, once again, like a player asking just to give you a result, may be worth asking a few questions to better understand the context. And yes, I didn't provide you the context initially when we voted, but yes, also the player didn't provide you any context to me when the player came to me with a request. Okay, let's go to situation number 3. Here, I would be interested, because why presenting when I presented you this situation, most of you said yes, I would investigate. So if you want to share on the chat why, you want to investigate the situation where a player calls you at the table and says that they have additional time. I'm giving you a few seconds, probably because of the YouTube delay. Okay, Colin, you say we have additional time is such a weird thing to state without being prompted. Yes. And Garm00, why did they tell me they have time, not when I'm not involved? And Antonio says, I assume the player wanted to give me a slip. And let's see some more. And I'm giving you a little bit of context. This was GP Los Angeles 2018. And I remember this GP very well because, well, I believe it was my first GP in the States, in Burgundy. And it was an amazing event. And this situation happened during day 2, where a judge came to me relaying me this piece of information that I was just told by a player that they have additional time. And now I will tell you something more. So as we said before, additional time, we have a beautiful clock context. We were starting with the context. So what happens at GPs day 2 or day 1 with additional time? I can give you, so this was around 13. The table was one of the top tables. We were a few minutes into the round, like 10 or 11 minutes most. And the floor judge who came to me was one of the judges of the paper team. And they were distributing the entry slips to tables. So this judge came to this table with the entry slip and they put it on the table. And one of the players said, oh, wait, judge, we have additional time. And this means at this time, this doesn't look very suspicious because, of course, maybe something happened at the table before the slip arrived. So usually as judges, we tell the players, okay, you have a certain amount of minutes of extra time. When the judge with a slip arrives to your table, just tell them and they will put it on the slip for you. And this situation, so why is it like, why are you so curious about this situation? So what happened that hit your curiosity? And the judge told me, well, when I asked the player how much time you have, the player told me, I have 7 minutes and a half of additional time. And like, whoa. And like my face was like, at this point, what? 7.5 minutes of additional time? Really? Okay, and that was exactly the same reaction of the floor judge because, well, usually judges don't give like fractions of minutes of extra time to tables. So that was weird. So yes, we wanted to ask a few more questions. And the first question I asked the judge was about the context, of course, because we never enter into the next steps until the context is clear. And at this point, we had a match being played. So I asked the judge, okay, are they playing? Yes. Is it game 1? Yes. What decks are they playing? And both players were playing control decks, and it was a mirror match. The format was standard, so it's kind of common to have mirror matches, especially at the top tables, because I mean, there are a limited amount of very powerful decks, and some of them clash against each other. So we were about 11 or 12 minutes since the beginning of the round, so a lot of time still left in the round. And at this point, I mean, the context is clear. So 2 players are playing their match. It is game 1. They are playing control decks, and it's a mirror match. And when the judge giving the slip arrived to the table, one of the player claimed that they had additional time, and the amount of time was 7.5 minutes. Okay, so context is pretty much clear. Let's see if we can do something about the causes. Okay, the question here is pretty simple. So how can you get 7.5 minutes of additional time? I mean, this number is very weird. So what did happen to your table before the floor judge arrived? So the player who claimed they had the additional time said, "Oh, you enter my results wrong in the previous round. So I went to find a judge, tell the problem. They tell me to wait, and after a while, after you started the round, and I had to wait, the judge brought me to this table." And the judge told me that we had extra time, and I asked the judge how much time, and the judge told me 7.5 minutes. Okay, so this is a plausible cause for a match having like some time extension at the beginning of the round. One of the players was late at the table, and the player apparently came with the judge. So we immediately have more people that we can talk to in order to have a better grasp of the causes. Once again, as you see, for the context, we didn't like actually need to talk to a lot of people, because the context is the present, and the present is like already in front of our eyes. So we may be asking a few questions, but we need observation first, and trying to grasp as much of the picture as possible. Causes, that is the past already happened. So if we didn't have someone we can trust there, like we had with the previous example, we need to ask questions to as many people as possible in order to find out the details of the past. So at this point, we have the player who told us that they had additional time, but we also have the opponent that we can talk to. This player mentioned that another judge was involved earlier in the round because of the problem with the result. And of course, since we have the magical word of results, there is also a third person that we can talk to, and it's a scorekeeper. So scorekeeper confirmed that the results was entered incorrectly for this player, and they had to break a table and repair a couple of matches, and this player was sent to the table. It was a little bit complicated to find the first judge who handled this, because scorekeeper didn't remember, and the player had a very, very clear description of this. Oh, it was a man. He was like average tall, and he had like dark hair, but maybe it was not so dark. And oh yeah, he had like a black shirt. So yeah, that part was not very helpful, but we were able to find the judge who did assist the player to the table. And the judge told me that he never assigned 7.5 minutes. Well, actually, my question was not so leading. So I asked them, okay, how much time did you assign to the table? And the judge said that they gave five minutes of extra time. So, well, that's weird. Opponent had another part of the story that was he was actually like shuffling when the opponent arrived. It was, yes, like a few minutes after the beginning of the round, but he was not really paying attention, and the judge talked only to that player, not to him. So judge, I really didn't pay any attention to what happened at the table. I was just like finishing to shuffle and ready to start. So opponent was not very helpful, but the first floor judge was a little bit helpful in giving us 5 minutes. So I did ask some more questions to the floor judge. Okay, did you confirm this information with both players at the table? And the judge said, no, I was talking just to the player who I brought to the table. And this is like confirmation of the opponent's story. And second question, okay, did the player like reply to you in any way to this information? Oh yes, they complained a lot. So the player complained a lot, saying, no, it's not 5 minutes, it's a lot of time. And I think it's at least 10 minutes. And the floor just said, no, it's 5. And the player said, no, it's 10. So let's see, can you find a way how 7.5 may have come out of the player's mouth? Well, if you want to do 10 plus 5 and divide by 2, you find that 7.5 is a very a good compromise. If the judge says 10 and I say 5, well, let's compromise, and I will tell the judge coming 7.5. Okay. And third part, that's my assumption at least. Third part, what are the effects? So we are, there is a discrepancy between the floor judge and the player. And what is the effect of our decision? Well, we may be providing more additional time than needed. This may be like a little thing, like 2 minutes and a half. It's not like, I don't know, 25. So it's a short amount of time. But still, you analyze the context initially, correct? And you saw that it's a mirror match of control decks. And if I play control, I may be willing to have that a couple of extra minutes, maybe allowing me to recover from losing a long game 1. Maybe I have time to go back in game 2, or maybe even we have time to finish game 3. And that means that actually both players may have a benefit out of this situation. And that is something that you need to consider. So even if a short amount of time can be important for them. So at the end, what happened? Of course, I believe the judge. And since I was good at math at second and third grade, so I could do average between 10 and 5, I had a motivation that the player never agreed with about how the 7.5 came out. But yes, even if it was 2.5 minutes of difference, that was, I believe, a lie. And so the player, of course, didn't progress into the event, and the opponent got a win out of the match. Okay, cool. If you have more questions, of course, I always invite you to write in the chat. And we have time for situation number 4. Okay, situation number 4 is a very nice one, because I think this exemplifies very much customer service. Player is calling you at the table. It's because they can't find a card. So this is coming from GP Torino 2018. I believe it was the last GP in Torino we had. I remember this call because the player was actually playing at a feature match. So it was kind of like a special setting for this judge call. And if you are following me during this presentation, now you know what kind of questions you need to ask at this point, because that's what you need to find out first, the context. Well, a missing card. So we have a few questions that we can ask the players about this missing card. Is judges, do you have any questions? We'll put Matteo back and see that. I'm waiting for you. No, where is it? Waiting for you. Please feel free to type into the text chat any question you would like to ask in order to understand the context of this judge call. And I remember you, this is GP Torino. It was a limited GP. This was beginning of round 4, 1 minute or 2 minutes after the beginning of the round. And a player from one of the feature matches called you saying that they can't find a card. So, okay, first question, what card is missing? Okay, that's a very good question, but it also may be a difficult one for the player to answer, because this means that they know which card is missing. So I would say, exactly, I see some questions. We are talking about the context. We are not talking about the causes. So we are talking about the present, not the past, not the future. The first question that I would like to ask is, okay, how do you realize that you are missing one card? And the player is saying, oh, I was pile shuffling and I counted 39. So this is a limited event once again. Okay. Did you also check if it's, I know there are multiple places that eat cards. Like, okay, did you check under your playmat? Did you check under your seat? Under the tablecloth? That is one of the biggest enemies of magic cards. So we did check and there was no card. Okay, at this point, okay, do you know which card is it? And the player said, oh, yes, while I was waiting for a judge to arrive, I quickly checked my deck. And what I did find was that I'm missing a pacifism. And we go back to the slide. Okay, pacifism is one of the most likely cards to disappear from tables. And at this point, the context is clear. We know which round we are, we know how much time is passed, we know which card is missed, we verify that the card is not at the present time in any place that can be easily found. And that means that the player's deck is illegal because it's 39. And what do we want to do at this point? Okay, well, customer service. Just give me a mountain, I will write pacifism on it, and you play, my friend. Don't worry about that. Is it really good customer service? Well, maybe for the player that called us, yes. But for sure, there is at least one other person that will not be very happy about this because they may have an illegal deck as well. I mean, if a pacifism is missing, probably it's in somebody else's deck at this point, and probably in a place where it's not supposed to be. But also, we do not provide proxies for missing cards as a policy. So I can tell you that if you do that, you will find like an email by Toby Elliot at some point after in the day that's saying, do not deviate, do not make proxies. And that means that context is clear, but we need to investigate about the causes. So the thing that we want to find out is, okay, where is this card? And we asked the player, did you play it the previous round? I mean, this was round 4, and the player was at the top match, one of the top tables, because he was playing feature matches. That means that the player may have like 3 buys, for example, and they may have not played a single match before during the day. But the player had only 2 buys, so they did play round 3, and they did play Pacifismo, and it was also in game 2. That was the last game of the match. So, okay, we find out who the previous opponent is, and we said, and we tried to find the card. So we investigated about the causes, so how it did disappear. So the player played on an opponent's creature the previous round, and probably forgot to take it back. And we considered the effects as well. It means that there was a deck with 39 and one deck with 41 cards, and we need to fix it. So this looks like simple, but actually there is a bonus part, because finding out that card was quite funny, because we went to the table, the current table of the previous round opponent, and the opponent was actually oh yes, Chris, you have a good point. You're saying it can be a deck problem if you haven't presented the deck yet. Yes, the current player has not presented the deck yet, the player we are talking with, because they called us before doing so. But still, there is a problem in the deck because the deck is 39 cards, so it's not a penalty yet, but still, it's still something we need to fix. And going to the previous round opponent, they have already started playing. So I went there, I tried to take a look to the context, the current context. They were playing game 1. The previous round opponent was the active player, and they had like 3 lands on the battlefield, and they were thinking about what to play. And while looking at this hand, I saw a pacifism in his hand, and I saw that he's also playing white. So I like wait for him to make a decision, then stop the match and talk to the player and say, okay, we may have a problem because your previous opponent is missing a card, can be into your deck, okay? And yes, he said, oh, I don't know. What card is it? And I say, oh, it's a pacifism. I see that there is such a card in your hand. And he says, well, I didn't notice. And I ask, okay, do you play any pacifism in your deck? And he says no. And I was like, whoa, come on. I mean, it's turn 3, and it's a pacifism in your hand. That's kind of a pretty powerful card in your deck, and it's a very good removal. And you know you don't have one. And then I look closely at this pacifism, and I also noticed that the pacifism, as I told you at the beginning of the story, it was GP Torino. And if you haven't been at a European GP very often, maybe you don't know that we offer the option to choose which language you want your cards. And of course, in Italy, you can choose between Italian cards or English cards. And I checked the card, it's in Italian, and the rest of the cards of this player are in English. And that's like kind of, whoa. So this context is getting very, very strange. But also, I'm noticing that something that you may have noticed from the previous table is the player who is calling us initially playing sleeved or unsleeved. This is a very good question when we are trying to locate missing cards, because it's easier to spot them. And the player is initial player was playing with red sleeves, and this opponent is actually playing with blue sleeves, and this pacifism is inside a blue sleeve. And so this pacifism in a different language apparently moved from a red sleeve into a blue sleeve. So context was very funny. Apparently, this was confirmed by the current opponent of this person, that this player was shuffling the deck and actually broke one sleeve. So they tried to change one sleeve of the deck and couldn't find one. So they unsleeved the entire deck and sleeved them back fully. So that's why the sleeve was different. But still, there were several points where the player could have noticed that there was a problem with this card, and they didn't. And so that was the end of our investigation. And this is also our last example. I want to thank you for joining this seminar. I really, I'm coming back on camera. I really hope to see you back at some events or at some conference in person, if they will happen earlier than events. And I really appreciate that you wanted to spend some time with me, even if we had some mic issues at the beginning of the stream. So thank you very much, and I hope to see you soon.